Might as well get to the podcast now.
Yeah,
How about
let's
that?
do it.
There, I'll put that first half in there somehow. So Matt, welcome to the studio. I talked to you at the Great American Outdoor Show.
Yeah.
And I was like, we got to do it in the studio since you live right in Palmyra right here. So I was like, close.
20 minutes.
Yeah, so let's do it. So here you are. You made it. It's, what is today's date? March 4th. So when it comes out, it's going to be, I don't know. It's going to be like
October.
3 weeks. October. Yeah. No, but it's awesome having you in the studio.
Yeah, glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. I always love in-person guests.
It's my first in-person one, I think.
Really? Okay.
Oh, that's not true. I did one with, I don't know if you know Servicide.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
I did one with them years ago.
Yeah.
In studio.
Okay. All right. Yeah, but this, you are the owner of Bow Creek Trail Cams.
Yep.
So first, before we get into that kind of stuff, let's hear a little bit about you, maybe how you got into hunting, and then we'll jump into how your season went this year.
Well, I think I'm probably like most Pennsylvanians. You know, we big family tradition. Not a whole lot of hunting, like the typical rifle hunting family, I guess you'd say. Like our season lasted about a day and a half, all day Monday and half day Tuesday.
Yeah.
But my uncle's a really big hunter. He hunts a lot. And then my dad still is out in the woods. He's probably, well, he'll tell you, like, my passion for it kind of changed him. Mm-hmm. So, definitely the family tradition part of it. Yeah. Unfortunately, like, I think what turned my dad off was my grandfather died deer hunting. He had a heart attack shortly after doing a deer drive. I was 11 at the time, so I never got to hunt with him. Yeah. I'm not much of a rifle hunter, but when I do rifle hunt, I still have his original gun from the day he died. So that was a long time ago, probably 86, I'd say. Okay. So everything's still the way he had it. It's a real old Bushnell scope. Yeah. I think it's a Remington, I want to say 760 308 bolt action. Yeah. Left-handed, I'm right-handed.
Oh, man.
So I have killed one deer with it. It was a doe. And that's the only way I rifle hunt is I'll take his gun out. It just means a lot. I think it brings back, like, it's a big shift in the family dynamic at that time. Yeah. When you lose the patriarch of the family and things like that. So, so did that. I went in the military, was in the military for 6 years in the Air Force, spent time in operations supporting Kuwait, Kosovo, Bosnia. Okay. And during deployments, my mom would send me whitetail hunting strategy magazines because contrary to like movies and stuff, deployments are typically pretty boring. Yeah. You'll have like a week of action, then nothing, like, and you're just sitting around for a long time.
Or doing drills or something like that, maybe? Or
no,
just sitting around?
Really? Like, you're just, like, for my job, I worked on A-10s. It's an attack aircraft in the Air Force. I loaded the bombs and worked on the weapon systems of the plane, like the electronics of it. And so if you're not dropping bombs, they're just coming back and you're making sure the munitions are safe to sit on the ground. Or not you don't sit the munitions on the ground. The plane sits on the ground and the munitions stay on the plane. Okay. So you're not really doing anything until you get some action. Yeah. And so a lot of reading, and then that got me into the deer feed business. Just, it wasn't even a business. I've covered this on other podcasts, but it was just I was making it for myself. And then my buddies would see it, and then they asked me to make it. A friend of mine, Matt Hahn, was like, oh, will you make me some? And then I start making it for him. And he's a salesman, so he was like, oh, you got to try my buddy's deer feed. And then I'm like, next thing I know, I had to start a business because Tyler France, a local outdoor writer, wrote an article about it, and then people started hitting me up. And so we got started in the deer feed business. And then what goes with deer feed but trail cameras, right?
Yep.
So tried to make a healthy deer feed. It's protein based. A lot of people don't want to put protein in because it can spoil. Like if you put too much out, it gets rain.
Is it on the website here?
Yeah, it's the Buck Fuel products right there, top left, soy sauce. So we have that, and then we have the gold mine, which is more of an attractant. Started making that when I was hunting some private land in Maryland. It's just something that smells awesome. It's like a rolled corn, low salt, and you could spread it over top of corn or just use it by itself. But
okay.
Yeah, that buck was a giant. I think it had split brow, split G2s. And buddy in Kentucky ended up shooting that. But
and a drop time there too.
Yeah.
Man.
So got into that a little bit. We don't do much with that just because of not being able to bait in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
But
it's a nice buck.
Yeah, that was a young buck there. That was so that one. That was a Big 10, and then that was what I thought was a 2-year-old.
This one?
Yeah, we called him Righty because he had a big, tall right brow tine, and then we had a buck we called Lefty that I ended up shooting on Halloween that year. But yeah, the Lefty dressed or live weight was like 235.
235.
Yeah, and then the buck I killed this year, live weight was 232.
Man.
Dressed out at 183. But so yeah, got into the deer feed. And then, like I said, what goes with that's cameras.
Yep.
And so this year we launched a new camera, but I think that was our 8th or 9th camera. And then this year's our 10th year in business. So we hit our 10-year anniversary this year.
Hey, happy anniversary.
Yeah, thanks. And so, yeah, we got our cameras, solar panels, turkey calls.
Turkey calls too, look at that.
And mostly diaphragm calls. Well, all diaphragm calls. I might start to dabble in the pot calls, but for right now, it's just the mouth calls.
I'm a big, I like the pot call.
Yeah,
I'm a
me
big
too.
pot call guy.
In fact, I just got another one from a buddy of mine. Well, I just told him today to send it to me, but if you could check out Jason Powell, he's a veteran as well.
Okay.
Disabled veteran. He's not he is, but he's not. Like he walks. He does a lot of good stuff. I think he just finished 5th at NWTF for frictional calling.
Yeah.
But he makes. I try to buy one a year from him.
Yeah.
They're just very well made. But I have like a titanium from him, an aluminum, a copper, slate, and the one I just ordered was a glass. But he does awesome work. So check out Jason Powell Outdoors on Facebook. But good dude.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of like the quick history of it. Launched the cell cam, I guess it'll be 2 years this year.
Okay.
Kind of what my philosophy is: if something's broke, don't fix it.
Right.
So the BC-48's been out for 5 years now. That's 48 IRs. It has a 14 megapixel image sensor. Takes crystal clear pictures. Like the pictures from it are absolutely amazing.
Yeah. Almost like HD, like DSLR.
Yep. So if you like good quality pictures, like that would be the camera for you.
3-second trigger time.
Yeah.
That's fast.
Yeah. All of them are 0.3. The only one, the newest one's 0.2.
0.3, yeah.
It may be a little too quick. Actually, I think 0.3 is too quick, to be honest with you. Like, I feel like I have to set all my cameras up on a 3-picture burst.
Okay, yeah.
Just to make sure that, if the deer's hanging out on the fringe of the camera, like it can just stand there. You get the nose for a little while, but it's pretty quick.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I try to set my 48s up on like scenic shots, set them into sunsets, set them in rock croppings, just stuff that I think's going to be a cool photo. Lower
on the ground too?
Yeah,
probably.
Sometimes, like with the turkeys especially.
Yeah.
So the 52, well, let's run through these. The BC30, that's the cell cam. All that is a cellular version of the BC48. Like I said, we kept the BC48 out for 5 years now, maybe 6, just because we can't find anything better.
Right. Yep.
So we're not into just replacing cameras to replace cameras.
Yep.
For 6 years, I tested cellular. I couldn't find one that worked that I'd be willing to put the Bow Creek name on.
Right.
So I finally asked my manufacturer, can we just try a cellular module in this one?
Yeah.
And the testing went for 1.5 years, so tried to work out all the bugs. We still have a couple, nothing major, like you can't do a delayed upload. It's got to be instant. Little things we're still working on.
Okay.
But, so all that is a BC48 with the cellular module that also has the 14 megapixel image sensor.
Okay.
So super crystal clear pics. Most companies are using like a 1.3 or a 3 megapixel image sensor.
Right.
So we're 5 times the clarity, 4 to 5 times the clarity of the regular image sensor. So you don't have a need for like, you can still request an HD photo.
Yeah.
But it'll send standard 8 megapixel. So it's kind of like watching a 4K video in 1080p, right? Like you have the clarity of the 14 megapixel image sensor, but you're only getting an 8 megapixel image sent to you.
Yeah.
And then you have the enhanced photo, which is a straight 14 megapixel. And then the HD is a 30 megapixel.
Okay.
But like I said, there's no need to eat up your data unless you feel for some reason you need to have that HD photo right then and there.
Right.
I'll do it sometimes for the website or for Facebook. But the 30 megapixel is going to save on your card inside the camera.
Okay.
But yeah, we have some really long triggers on that. 50 plus yards. We tell people 100 feet because we want to be realistic.
Yeah.
But like in an open setting, you can get some really long triggers.
There was one, and I'll pull up the video to show everyone. There was one, it was a video on your YouTube here.
Oh yeah, that's off the cell cam. That one there, the Bob Kittens.
This one right here, how far away that was.
Yeah.
Like that was like, wait a second, that shouldn't have been taken that far away and be that clear, right? Like that's, like you don't see that a lot on
exactly.
cameras.
Like the quality of our cameras is what we stick to. Like I know people want us to sell an economic $40, $50 camera, but
and I mean I have a bunch of them.
Right.
Like that's
and I understand. I just struggle with knowing the quality that we're used to putting out.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's like so hard to go switch to that model. And it's like, I don't know. I go back and forth with it all the time. So
that's kind of what I was interested in. Like, you know, I guess we can do part 2 of your season recap. I think we should just dive right into this right now.
Okay, yeah.
So I have this right here. I was going to try and open it up. Like I told you before, I was going to try and open it up, and because this is a stealth cam that I have, and it no longer works. So this is like one of those cheaper ones, right? And so what is between your camera and this? Like what kind of like inside here? I don't think many people know what's inside of a camera, right? Like
100%. So
what is different inside this camera, or like what's similar to what's inside your cameras? You know what I mean?
Well, it's funny. Like, I think you and I were talking about batteries, right?
Yes.
And I saw a post where somebody said Duracell Pro Cells are trash, and I'm like, people don't understand that all I run are Duracell Pro Cells, so I know they're not trash.
Right.
the quality of the components matters with like battery life. It's not just the battery, it's what you use inside the camera. So our new cameras like the BC32 and the BC52, the 48 you'll get probably 8 to 12 months out of a set of batteries, I'd say. Regular alkaline Pro Cells, buy them on Amazon. I buy them in bulk. I think it's like 144 at a time. It comes out to like 52 cents a battery.
Yeah.
I have a set in a BC32, and that set will last a year, because battery life. The three things we've always focused on are image quality and battery life.
Yeah.
And range, but
yeah.
So the BC32 with lithiums, I'm at 16 months on a 20-second video.
Yeah.
One picture, 20-second video. 16 months. I still don't know how long it's going to last.
And what size SD is in that?
32 gig.
32, okay.
All our cameras take up to a 32 gig.
Okay.
We don't go higher than that. But it's because of the components we use that you get long battery life.
Right.
So, yeah, that matters. The image sensor matters. Everybody wants to sell megapixels. Megapixels don't mean anything.
Right.
The image sensor you use, so we use 8 megapixels in the BC52 and 32, and we use 14 megapixels in the cell cam in the BC48.
Yeah.
Again, I saw a brand that's super excited about launching a 36 megapixel camera with a 14 megapixel image sensor. I'm like, cool, we've had that out for 5 years.
Yeah.
And I think they're selling it for $50 more than what we sell ours.
Yeah.
But we don't get rid of cameras, like I said, just to get rid of them. If something's working, the BC32 is replacing the BC52.
Okay, yep.
The 52 has a blackout IR. The 32 is a low glow red IR. Low glow red. So it's not like the old cameras that would just blast red at you.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's literally low glow.
Okay.
And I was a little worried about it when I got it as a test camera because we will test every camera for a year before we ever take it to market.
Right.
And the deer didn't spook. Anytime I test it, I put it on video mode, put it on how I'm going to use it, but I want to see the deer's reaction to the camera.
Right.
A lot of cameras make a click.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Like they go... I know, like, before I started this, I had some Primos 35s, and it wasn't a click. It was a clunk. Like, it was like, clunk.
Wow.
I'm like, holy cow. Like,
yeah.
Can you imagine being in the woods? It's all quiet.
And that's why deer look at the camera sometimes. Like, you have certain cameras out there, like, they don't necessarily notice the camera on the tree. They notice the sound it makes when it takes a picture.
Yeah. Yep. And so... the reason we're coming out with the 32 is it's exactly the same as the 52 with its internal components. The low glow IR lets us have a better night picture.
Yeah.
The 52 had a real conical look to it, to where it was just like a cone shape. The 32 is I want to say 120 field of view.
Okay.
So it was designed more for the public land hunter who mounts their cameras up in a tree. So now you go from a standard 54-degree field of view to doubling that.
Right.
And so there's more for the public land hunter, long battery life. You can go pull that card. We often go upstate to turkey hunt, and we'll hang deer cameras then.
Yep.
And when you come back, you don't have to worry about whether your battery life's good or not.
Yeah. The only thing is to make sure to turn the actual camera on.
Right. And, I found that helps me a lot.
Yeah.
Like, but, so the 32 will be replacing the 52. I think we only have like 5 52s left.
Okay.
But so eventually that one will go away. But it takes great video, 4K video. But again, I don't have any 4K devices, so I just set it on 1080. Yep. But a lot of adjustability built into our cameras. Every camera has a screen to view. So, that BC32 at $119.99, like 2-year warranty, screen on the inside. It has everything you want.
And with the warranty, so what is that? Because you hear a lot of people say the warranty,
Yeah.
Like XOP has a metal warranty. Not really quite sure, to be honest, what that actually means. So like, what is the 2-year warranty? What does that cover?
It covers everything.
Okay.
I mean, I don't really want it to cover bear attacks, but we don't offer a bear box. So it's just, for the most part, it covers everything. Okay. I have a customer locally here that had another brand camera, and they're like, well, what happened to it? And he's like, well, ants got in it. Well, ants aren't covered. He's like, well, show me where it says ants aren't covered.
Yeah.
And it's like, this company wants to love their 5-year warranty, and it's like, oh, but ants aren't covered. So, what good is a warranty if you're not going to cover?
So I like to have the honest conversation with people, right?
Yeah.
So, you're in the trail cam business. I feel like there's a lot of trail cam. There's obviously a lot of trail cam comes down.
Yeah, 100%.
So, is there a good relationship with all trail cam companies, or like, you don't need to throw anyone off the bus, but if you want to, this podcast I'm not afraid to put it out. Obviously.
Like I said, I listened to your one with the guy from Wise Eye. Like that guy touched on a lot of things we touch on, because everybody wants to sell megapixels, and megapixels don't mean anything. It's all about your image sensor.
Yeah.
So for me, I don't really follow what everybody else is doing, and I just don't have time to.
Right.
My team that helps me, shout out to those guys, Lee, John, Tyler, help me a lot, and they'll keep me up to date.
Yeah.
I don't follow the industry that much for various reasons. So we'll sit at a booth and there's like, oh, that's so-and-so. I'm like, oh, yeah, what do they do? Like, I know nobody. Like, I'm not going to lie. Like, I focus on the business. I focus on putting out good product. If you check my social media, like, there's not a lot there. Like, I just try to stay out of the spotlight, which probably hurts me. But I don't have any relationships with any trail cam people, to be honest with you. Like, they'll send me stuff and I'll laugh about certain things companies post, but I'm not going to sit there and bash them. Like, I do respect that the majority of us have a regular job, because there are so many. My reasons for getting into this, like I said, it was never meant to be a business. So it's kind of like, I have a job that pays me well. I think that allows me to also be fair to our customers. Like, I'm not going to sit there. Like, a guy broke a strap the other day and I just mailed him 2 this morning. And I don't care. Like, it that cost me probably less than $20 between shipping it and the 2 straps to keep that guy happy. Yeah. So I'm not here to make customers' lives hard. Right. So if you have an issue, I want you to be happy. Yeah. Now, that being said, some people take it over the top and you're just like, how about I just buy the camera back from you and you go buy a Tasco or something? Yeah. Like, but yeah, I try to work with everybody. I try to think about how I would want things handled if I was a customer. Obviously, I buy other things. So if that problem happened to me, what would I want done? But luckily, because we test everything for a year, our problems are very minimal. Right. Like, I feel like our return rate is probably less than 3%.
Okay, wow. Yeah, that's good.
So when we have an issue, it's not a big deal. Yeah. And I don't understand why people make it a big deal, because you should have warranties with your manufacturer. Yep. So what's the big deal?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
it sucks to have to ship stuff back.
It's more of a hassle. Right. It's not like it's just it's an inconvenience, right? Like, when you're a company, when you have a business, you need to have you're gonna take that. Like, you're gonna take that inconvenience because
dude, last year our BC 48s came in, and we sold 40 before I realized the firmware was wrong in them. I had to pay to have every single one of them shipped back to me, and I had to wait till the customer noticed.
Yeah.
Because what it was doing was just taking pictures nonstop as soon as you turned it on.
Yeah.
And I'm like, there's no way.
Yeah.
Because I usually test cameras. This changed my whole testing process.
Yeah.
Because I sit in front of the camera like a dumbass and wait for it to take pictures, and I'm like, oh, okay, it's taking pictures.
Yeah.
So now I put it in a separate room and then go walk in the room because if it's just taking pictures, you're thinking it's because you're sitting in front of you. So I paid for every single camera to be shipped back, updated the firmware, which takes a whopping 20 seconds, and then paid to ship it back out. Well, average 2-pound package is going to cost between $8 and $10.
Right.
So $20 for every 40 cameras, it shit adds up.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's my fault.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. A lot of people or a lot of companies, like in the trail, I'm just going to stick with the trail cam business right now. Like, there's companies out there that probably wouldn't do that. They'd just be like, oh, those are faulty. We'll give you your money back. You just keep those or whatever. Like, make it inconvenient for the customer when really you're making it inconvenient for yourself right now by paying for their shipping it back. Then you ship it back to them again. You're updating the firmware, and like, you're making an inconvenience for yourself because you have, like you said, you have a full-time job yourself. Yeah.
And not to mention everybody's like, yeah, I don't think that'll work. Yeah. And I'm like, no, I'm telling you, that's the problem. They're like, I don't think so. And I'm like, no, I know it is. Yeah. And so, how you handle mistakes as a small company, like, we can't afford to have that mistake. Yeah. And so we had it. We handled it well. And actually had several people come back to the outdoor show this year and was like, I appreciate everything you did for my camera that wasn't working, and they bought more. Yeah. So they're like, one guy kept complaining about the 2 sets of batteries his camera burned through. And I'm like, I'll just put it this way. I gave him a hell of a deal. Yeah. And his son was with him. His son was probably my age. He was an older gentleman. And he goes, you have no idea what you did and how much that means to him. He goes, I'm going to need 3 cameras over the summer. He goes, I'll be buying from you. Yeah. But I could tell, like, those 2 sets of batteries meant everything to that guy. Yeah. Like, so I just assumed he was struggling financially, or was on a strict budget to where, and batteries aren't cheap. No. So I was like, how about we do this? And I way overdid myself. Yeah. But my thing is, like, I want customers we have, like, I want to keep as customers, 99% of them. Yeah. Some of them I'm just like, cool. Like, how about I just give you your money back?
Just don't come back to my stand again.
Yeah. And now, when I say that, that might have been 5 customers over 10 years. Yeah. But those people exist. Yep. If they were females, they'd all be named Karen.
I forget. We came up with a name for the male version, but I forget what the name was. Yeah. Like, it was like Greg. Or like something like that, like something like Greg or Greg and Karen. Or, Greg. Yeah. So,
So, the warranty covers.
Yeah, almost anything except for ants, right? Yeah. Except for ants.
But a cool tip on the ant thing, like, if you spray the tree around your camera with permethrin, it'll typically work. Okay. All right. Don't spray your camera with it. Just spray it around.
Yeah. So. This is something that I've been wondering too. Like, so lithium batteries, obviously, people are big on lithium batteries. Now, I have been running the Amazon batteries, the cheaper stuff, and they've been lasting all season for me. Yeah. So that's what I stick with, and they're a lot cheaper than buying lithium. But I've been telling people that I think it's isn't it the seal that matters more on a camera than the type of battery? Like, if you get water in there, then that's when, like, corrosion, if moisture gets in there, corrosion will happen then. But, like, if you're running alkaline in there, even in cell cams, like, if there's a good seal,
right,
it won't corrode.
Yeah, for the most part. Like, I'm starting to run into where our solar panels are so good that the batteries are corroding because they sit in there so long.
Yeah, and they're not being used.
Right.
Because it uses the solar panel first.
Yeah.
Then the batteries.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, the batteries are like a backup, but unfortunately, the way our case closes, you need to have some batteries in there. I just went through this with a guy. Actually, he wanted to use it on a BC32, and I'm like, bud, like, just run batteries. It's way cheaper than running a solar panel. Those 12 batteries are going to last you a full year. Okay. So, like, if it's 52 cents a battery, you're looking at $6, you know, $6-7, as opposed to an $80. He had like an 8,000 amp hour solar panel. I'm like, use that on a different camera. Like, you don't need that here. Yeah. But you'd almost have to cut out. There's a little tab. Okay. And you could do it if you open that up. I mean, if you screw the case up, I'm not going to honor your warranty. But there is a little tab there that you could just run solar on. Okay. And I thought about doing it. Yeah. But
just isn't worth it.
I don't feel like taking... I have so many cameras. Like, I don't feel like taking them out of the woods to cut a notch in it. Yeah. But I imagine you could probably use like a... What are those little... tools like you use to cut dogs' fingernails. It's just
like a little grinder almost. Yeah. You could do that. Honestly, I think it would if it can grind a dog's nails down, it can grind a piece of plastic down, right?
I think so.
Yeah. So are all cameras made with the same kind of plastic?
No, ours definitely have a this one seems pretty thick. You can definitely tell a difference, though. Yeah. On some cameras, the case is pretty cheap. Okay. But yeah, the case matters. Your waterproof rating matters. Like, I think all ours are like 67. But they won't survive 2 weeks underwater. That was a question I got. Very first question I got last year at the Great American Outdoor Show. Yeah. And I was like, this is how we're starting the show.
2 weeks underwater? Yeah. Why would someone be running a camera underwater?
Well, his camera got flooded, and he's like, I was pretty disappointed. It didn't survive being underwater. And I said, well, how long was it under there? He's like, 2 weeks. I'm like, well, you're not going to want to buy ours because ours probably won't make that either.
Would it last even a day underwater?
I don't know. I have no idea.
I think that should be fun.
Like, whenever they test them over there, they do submerge them underwater, but I don't know exactly for how long. But we've had a couple go, like, people ask to send them back after like 4 years. And I'm like, look, you can send it back. Like, I just replaced a lens for somebody on like a 6-year-old camera. Yeah. And I was like, well, hey, I have the parts. Like, and it was a local customer, so I'm like, I can just meet you. Yeah. And then I'll replace it. And I don't remember. I think a woodpecker somehow like pecked through it. I think that's what he told me. Yeah. I know it wasn't a bear because we've had bear bites before, but it's like, I'm pretty sure he told me a woodpecker pecked through the lens. And I'm like, yeah, I can swap that out for you. He's like, well, how much is that? I'm like, wow, I keep like broken cameras at the house for stuff like that. I'm like, I'll just do it. Yeah. And the same thing, like you talked about that jeweler's screwdriver. Like, if you have cameras out of warranty, you can, and you're getting some kind of water in it or something, you can take that out. And like, I'll take apart some of my old ones and take that off and then seal it with silicone. Okay. Because sometimes those gaskets go bad after years. Yeah. But if it's 2 years or less, like, I'll replace the camera. Really. Okay.
So, a lot of people want to do like the whole "Made in the USA" thing, like that. That's the big thing. Yeah, exactly. Like, then you're getting into some heavy prices and all that kind of stuff.
I'm pretty sure Reconyx is the only one.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So you take yours overseas, like and they ship them out from over there. So the process of you ordering the cameras, or even going through the process of like finding that person to make them, like, is the person over there or the company over there make a lot of cameras for over here, or how did that come about?
I'm pretty sure. So we switched manufacturers. Well, that's not even true. Our manufacturer sold to another manufacturer.
Okay.
Sold all their technology. This was back when we had the BC-36. So that was 5-6 years ago. And so we just started working with the manufacturer they sold to, because they had all their technology, and we liked their technology.
Right.
I don't think they're making... The reason we switched to that manufacturer is because so many people were using the other manufacturer from over here.
Yeah.
Like, I can look at a timestamp and pretty much tell what factory it's made in.
Really?
Yeah. So I don't want to throw that information out there, but probably piss a lot of people off. Because a lot of the cameras you're buying are the same, and it's funny when you know that, and like you hear people complain about this company, but you know that company's being made by the same company that they're using now. It is. I have a lady over there that helps me. She worked for the manufacturer that sold, and it came like as a big surprise to her. Like, she was caught off guard. So now she works for she started her own company with like 2 other people, and they do like night vision stuff for like hog hunting.
Okay.
And, it's probably the same company that made that.
Buck Ops.
Yeah.
Guaranteed.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Guaranteed.
Like I said, I told you about some of the stuff she sent me. And I'm pretty sure she sent me that one like 2-3 years ago. And I'm just not into I'm not into accessories yet, like that kind of stuff. I have some other avenues that I want to pursue. I don't want to talk about that yet, but
keep it hush hush.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's because it's just monkey see, monkey do.
Yep.
Like, I think last year, like 6 aero companies popped up. But like, it's just like, G5 started selling them. Another camera company started selling them. I forget who else, but it was just like, what's going on?
Yeah.
There's one factory that dominates the market.
Okay.
I'll put it that way.
Okay. This has really, it could be about trail cameras, or it doesn't have to be. So, everyone, like I said, there's a lot of companies saying, oh, made in the USA. Recently, there's been some company that find out that not everything they have is made in the USA.
Right.
And then they're still saying everything's made in the USA.
Yeah.
Do you see that more and more, where people are saying made in the USA, but that it's made overseas?
I don't necessarily pay attention to all that. I just feel like even the consumer says they want made in the USA, but then when it comes time to pay that price point, they're like, well, we can make an exception for this one.
Yeah.
And is your phone made in the USA?
Absolutely not. No.
Every single American has a phone. So, where's the hype around that?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's, like the stands.
And trust me, I really wish we could make, I'm a veteran. I'd love to do it.
I would love to buy more things that are made in the USA, but also, we all
made
have
in China price point, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Or like a made in USA company where I could work at that company and have discounts at that company,
Exactly.
Like, as working people, as working adults, you have bills, you have
100%.
Kids, you have family, you have a house bill, you have bills, you have all this kind of stuff. You try and find the best deals you can, because you're trying this is a hobby. Hunting is a hobby, and we spend a lot of money on hunting stuff. So
I don't know how people do it. I feel fortunate. I have deals with certain companies, and it's I appreciate them for that. But I can't imagine trying, and my job, I get paid decent money.
Yeah.
I can't imagine I have one son who hunts. My daughter doesn't hunt. But, like, I can't imagine being that guy with, like, 3 boys that are, like, 3 years apart or 5 years apart. I guess you have hand-me-downs, but it's like the price of hunting stuff is through the roof. So, like, when I started this company, our cell cam beats the top-end cell cam.
Well, the top known.
Right.
I think that's where
I'll say the most expensive.
Yes.
Cell cam in every spec possible. And okay, our cell cam's not the cheapest, but it's significantly cheaper than that camera.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And my thing was when we started this, okay, I wanna make products that are high quality products at a reasonable price. Right. Not the cheapest price, a reasonable price.
Because the cheapest would be if you went to Muddy Stealth Cam. Like you could they have deals where you just buy one, get one free or something like that, where it's like, but then again, I have Stealth and I have Muddy. The Stealth cams are better than the Muddy in quality picture wise. Like Muddy picture wise is actually terrible. Stealth Cam, which
is weird because now they're the same company.
Exactly.
And same with Wild Game Innovations is now under that umbrella.
But then, you have those which in that, realm, that's what you're buying when you get cheaper cameras.
Yeah.
And that's what a lot of people go to because like that's what they can afford, that's what they're going with. But then, if you have and plus with people stealing them on public, it's it's ridiculous because
we hear that all the time at trade shows.
Yeah,
I'd really like to buy one, but my last 3 got stolen, and it's like I don't understand that at all. Like for the most part, this is a blue collar sport. Like when you're hunting public land, and I don't know. That's why I laugh. Like when people are like, "Yeah, somebody took my card."
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's better than your camera. But at the same time, like, I'm not going to lie. Like, I've checked cards before.
Yeah,
like,
I have too.
Back.
I've checked a few cards before. Like, I'm like, okay, well, this camera's here, but I'm not going to take the camera. Like, I'll check it.
It's only like a semi-dick move.
Yeah. The full dick would be like when you turn the camera off.
Right. Format their card.
We don't condone that.
No. But I wouldn't steal one. In fact, I put a video on Facebook. I was out on public land. This was like 4 or 5 years ago. And there's a tree stand there with like ladder. Yep. And I'm like, this is just a quick tip on how not to steal something. And I like look up at it and keep walking. But you just hear people all the time like this got stolen, and it's always I think I know who it is, or I'm gonna get that guy.
I had a Tasco stolen this year, and I found the guy like he put a camera there. I know because he had the screw-in thing in there, and had like the thing on top of it.
Same tree.
Yeah, on the same tree, the same exact tree, and then also I could see where he climbed up the tree to climb, and right below it, he must have had it hanging there all year because his CID number was right below it with his first name. So like it's still in my truck. Like I can find the guy. Yeah. But I'm like, is it worth it for a Tasco to go find this guy when there's probably nothing on that camera anyway to begin with? Yeah. It was a very heavily pressured piece too, and it was like, there's no way that there was anything good on that camera. Yeah. But then I had my first ever Tasco I bought back in 2019 when they made them camo.
Yeah, like they had the podcast. Yeah, somebody got that one.
They stole that one, and they hung the tree stand right where my camera was. Like that's a dick move.
Don't you just want to see what that guy looks like?
I do. I wanted to go like sit in his tree stand. Yeah. And just like every day go out there. I didn't care if I killed something. I just want to go sit in his tree stand every day. Like just go there.
You just figure he has to be the dumbest looking guy you ever seen in your life.
Like I imagine like I don't know, just some guy just like if you picture someone, I picture someone who's wearing. I don't know what kind of camo you wear, but I'm like picturing.
I wear Badlands.
Okay, I'm picturing like Sitka, full out Sitka. Like
I'm picturing jeans.
Oh, with I was like
the same boots that he wears to work.
Yeah.
Just dragging like I don't know.
He has
warehouse floor all over the woods, and like
he wears all of his stuff in with him, so he's sweaty when he gets in there.
6-pack of old mud.
Yeah. He has a beer with him in his back, 2 beers with him in his backpack, and he sits there and he smokes 3 cigarettes a day or whatever, and dropping them all around his stand.
Tells you stories about the good old days when his grandfather used to do the same thing.
Yeah, saw 80 deer a day.
My pap used to do this all the time.
Yep, these damn trail cameras are everywhere in the freaking woods. I'm taking them out myself. That's what it is.
Pap didn't need trail cams.
So I'm going to steal them and burn them. I mean, honestly, I could have just lost the camera in the woods because it was camo, but I think I remember what tree it was on. Yeah. And I was like looking around for like a good 10 minutes. And like, I was just like, I can't
I'm
find
not a good person to tell that story because my friends always say if you just follow Matt around in the woods, like you'll have a whole new hunting setup by the end of the year because I'm always dropping stuff. Like, and I'll stumble on cameras I forgot about.
Yeah. So what would be, we can kind of get into the second half because that would be like a season recap, but like, what's the best way you found to run cameras? Like it could be from just the setup at the physical camera or setting up on a tree.
For me, like the way I set my cameras up is I like to go to the woods. So, I mean, if I have time, I mainly run BC32s and BC30s. So I'll set my cell cams up, transition areas outside of bedding. It's mainly places I don't want to go until I want to go hunt there. Right. So for me, it's the top of the mountain. Yeah. Pretty lazy, so I don't want to hike up there. Yeah. But that's also where they're bedding most of the time or coming off of bed. So I'm running at transition areas. My 32s, the standard SD cards, I'm running on logging roads where I can just walk, see where they're crossing. Yeah. And just go pull cards and, leave. Yeah. But we talked about like my son's hockey schedule. Like I don't kill my buck this year I guess I could have had cell cams there, but I wasn't in after him. I had that buck on cellular cam just outside of a bedding area, daylighting from the beginning of October till the end of October. Yeah. Like, I mean, an hour and a half after daylight. Yeah. Like cracks. So I know it's a good area. Another thing I'll do is I'll run traditional cameras in an area. That's how I found him was the year before I ran this traditional camera in there, let it sit for a year. Pull the card, I think it was like February, March timeframe, and it was the same thing. Buck after buck, daylight, October through the middle of November. Yeah. I'm like, all right, well, I'll throw a cell cam in there this year. So that's how I found him. But as far as setup, it just depends, like, how high I'm setting them. Deer season, I'm going to set them a little higher. What I do is go to where I think they're going to be using, like, a trail or whatever. I'll kneel down, like squat down, and get wherever is eye level, that's where I'm hanging the camera. Okay. So if it's up, if the trail's up higher, it's going to be higher on a tree. If it's down lower, it's going to be down lower on a tree. This time of year for turkeys, I run them all low. Okay. Like I love getting turkeys. There's a spot they come to gobble a lot. It's just like it's a ridge, but then it kind of funnels down. There's 3 points that come off of it. And traditionally, year after year, they're gobbling at that area. Last year, I think I got 5 on video. Like, I love running video mode for turkeys. I'll typically run a 20-second setup for turkeys just because 10 seconds I've learned the hard way where I got them to gobble, and then the gobble gets cut off. Yeah. Deer, typically 10-second video. Okay. I do that spot that he was frequenting in like the beginning to middle October. I had that one on video. I think I switched it partway through the season, just because I was getting so many deer in there.
Right.
I just wanted to see, like, he had a weird rack, so it was kind of like I wanted to get every angle of him, where he was constantly cutting across right in front of the camera.
Yeah.
So if he stopped to look back, like, I was only getting the one side.
Right.
And but typically I'll only run video on like scrapes or something like that.
All right.
Just because it eats up a lot of data.
Yeah.
A regular camera, I'm probably going to set it at 3 to 5 pictures and then a video.
Yeah.
You know, you have does coming in and then maybe the bucks trailing later. But our cameras have such good recovery time. If you're running one of our cameras, like, you could set it at 5 pictures, it's going to recover in a very short time frame, like less than 10 seconds,
right.
Take another 5. So you probably don't have to run the video on our new generation of cameras. But
okay.
Yeah, so that's typically how I do it.
Yeah. So did you start a trail cam company just because you wanted free trail cams? Well,
you know what's wild?
You know,
like,
not free, but, you know.
When I started it, I probably had 20.
Yeah.
But then when you're getting started, like, you're thinking about all the money you're losing running them. So it wasn't until the last few years, like, where we really started making money. And it's like, now my wife would probably say, like, every room in our house has a trail camera in it for some reason. It may be like an old one that I was using for parts and never put it away.
Yeah. My wife said the same thing about hats.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I have my own hat press, so I probably have like 70, 80 hats. So she's like, do you need another one? I'm like, well, I've even gone downstairs and made one to, like, match an outfit. Like, I love hats.
Yeah. But, it's an accessory, right?
Yeah.
Just like women and, you know, whatever they wear.
Sneakers.
Yeah, sneakers.
They're a lot cheaper than sneakers.
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially when you have a hat press.
Yeah. So now this year I didn't run as many, but this year was weird, like, because I just knew I wasn't going to get to hunt a lot.
Right.
But I think most years I start out with like 60 probably. Probably start running like 60, but that's both on public and private.
Okay.
And then, like, kind of take inventory of what's there, and I start pulling them, like, in the season on public or before the season. And then I usually will have like 2 in my pack or something.
Every time you go out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's pretty much what I do too. I have at least one or 2 in my pack just in case when I go out there.
Right.
Especially when I'm mobile hunting. Like, if I find fresh sign that my camera is way over there, and I'm like, okay, I just found this.
Yep.
I kind of want to run a camera over that, just see what's going on with that.
Yeah. In fact, I'll probably switch one of my cellular setups because, like I said, I like to hang a regular camera. And I was up, I don't know, it had to be like the second week of September, and the acorns were just hammering this area, and it's an area I haven't hunted.
Right.
So I hung a 32 in there, and I just pulled it, like, not this past weekend, but the weekend before.
Yeah.
Pulled the card, and, man, I had some giants. Well, giants for my area. And I'm like, I got to get a cellular in there. Now, this tells you how stupid, like, hunting is. Like, I had a cellular camera probably 80 yards from that spot and made a mock scrape. Nothing. The whole year, nothing. Like, I mean, I had one good buck, September 30th. Like, that thing's a monster. Yeah. So hopefully I can find him. Like, that's the buck I'm thinking about. Like, if I can find him, then I might only hunt that buck. Yeah. But just an absolute giant for that area. Yeah. Yeah, I'm just envisioning it right now. I'll show you before I leave. But,
well, that was that was cool to hear that. Now we're going to get into part 2 of your season, but first we're going to take a little break.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
I'm not passing a 140. My biggest ever is a 137. It was the only one I ever scored. Yeah. Because it was New Year's Eve, and everybody else was out partying, and I'm just sitting in the garage. I'm supposed to be at this party, and I'm like, I just couldn't stop looking at it because it didn't make sense. New Year's Eve, 40 degrees out, 15-mile-an-hour winds. Oh, that was the other thing that was in the spreadsheet, the wind.
Yeah. Oh, the wind. Yep. The wind direction, the wind speed.
Wind speed, wind direction. So I learned like 7 to 11 miles an hour.
Yeah.
I think I only, in 3 years, ever had 2 pictures when the wind was over 11 miles an hour.
Yeah.
In the mountains.
Wow.
But yeah. Yeah. So none of it made sense.
Yeah. Ready to get this season recap?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, cool. All right, so we covered the business side of things. Oh, wait. Always I got to remember that because it makes my life a heck of a lot easier, put it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's recording. That's another thing that makes my life easier if it's actually recording. So we cover the business aspect of things like the cameras, all that kind of stuff. This is more the season recap and the background of like, because I know you hunt from the ground a lot, which I didn't really know until you told me about it, that you fully hunt from the ground pretty much. Yeah,
I don't think I've been in I think I hunted one day last year out of a tree stand.
Okay.
But yeah, I enjoy the finding a good blowdown and just like getting in and hunting from the ground.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know. I guess I like to make things difficult on myself, but like, I don't know. There's just something about it. You know, I let my son kill his first buck and doe from the ground. He killed his first turkey from the ground, but after that, it was like, I just feel like we're losing like the woodsmanship part of it.
Mm-hmm. I could agree with that. Yeah.
So, you know, you see a lot of this. Like, I don't watch Outdoor Channel anymore.
Nope.
Like, I watch some YouTube shows. But like, I just feel like we're missing the woodsmanship part of it.
Yep.
You have Instagram up here. I think that's killed a lot. Like, a lot of people are, I think, more enamored with likes than they are the actual...
That instant gratification.
Yeah.
Almost like you have cell cams, right? So it's almost like cell cams, that instant gratification type thing where people don't want to let them soak. I'm there. Like it's nice to get that picture. It's nice to see. Okay, I set this up camera right.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, and it's like, not to digress off the season part of it, but for me, like cell cams, I don't find I put any thought into a cell cam. Now, what I realized was I pulled cards last weekend, so that was the first time I've been to the woods since I killed my buck. So it was, well, that's not true. I was there one other day when I took a buddy up, but I feel like with the cell cam, I don't pay attention to what's going on. I'm either like at work, at a hockey game, and I'm just like, that's great, you know, or that's a nice buck. I'll look at it. Where when I sit down to pull cards, I put the card in the laptop and I'm sitting there, I'm more analyzing that picture, looking at the time of day. I'm putting more thought into it when I'm going through, you know, 1,000 pictures or however many are on the card, and trying to think about, okay, it's this time of day. Where are they coming from? Where are they going? Why are they there? You know, looking at the temperature, things like that. So with the cell cam, I don't feel like I analyzed the data properly.
Yeah.
We always say trail cams are either toys or tools, right? Like, if you use them for a tool, I just got long beards on camera and I was starting to stress out. And I'm like, beginning of March, after I stressed about it, like, I'm like, why don't I have any long beards on camera recently? And they're the same way. Like, they start showing up in like March. I don't know where they are. Like, October's great for turkeys in our area. They're always flocked up.
Yeah.
But I finally got a few long beards on camera today, and I'm like, cool. Like, then hopefully they'll be there 2 months from now.
Yeah.
So the cell cam, I just feel like I don't use it. I don't think when I get the picture.
Yeah, I mean, so, you know, it's cool to get those pictures, like I said, but then also I find more enjoyment when I go out and pull those SD cards and be like,
oh yeah,
okay, you have that extreme enjoyment, or it's like, shit, like that wasn't a good spot, and you let it sit there for like 6-8 months, and it's like, okay, nothing happened here at all.
But it's good to know.
Yeah, yes, that's a place not to hunt.
Right.
So it's like you're using it as some kind of intel.
Yeah.
So like cell cams, it's like, yeah, it's they're a tool. You add them to your arsenal.
Yeah.
But there are times where people use and abuse them. Like that's just going to be whatever it is in the world. You can use and abuse anything.
100%.
And it's just what it is. So that's that. But when your season in the part one, you kind of hit on this a little bit, how you wouldn't have got your buck this year if you didn't use your standard SD cams.
Right.
So let's break that down of how the camera helped you to harvest this buck. What was it? October 30th? Was that the day was that the day? Okay, yeah. October 30th. I think that's going to be the title of this episode. October 30th, 2023. Yeah.
So that was a Monday, if I remember right.
Okay.
And I don't have a lot of time to hunt. Mm-hmm. As I said previously, I have a regular job as well. So when I put my vacation in, I usually put it for the last few days of October going into November.
Yeah.
Because I think I told you off air, like I catalog all my buck pictures into 2 folders, October and November. Mm-hmm. And then I'll go through and analyze them. And the private land I hunt borders public. It's really odd. Like one set of doe seemed to, I don't want to say come in because I don't think they're fully in estrus then. I do believe in a mini rut in the middle of October. Mm-hmm. But with my son's hockey schedule, I don't like to miss his game. He puts in a ton of work. I feel like I need to be there to support him. So I kept getting this buck. I think I picked him up probably the last week or middle September, but it was mostly nighttime. And then October, I had a cell cam in the area where I had a standard camera the year before, and it was just piles of bucks in there, daylight movement, all through the quote-unquote October lull. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to hang a cell in there this year. So I hung a cell in there, and there was a hot oak tree just dropping. And if you look at the videos, you'd think that there was bait in there because it was just like every deer on that side of the mountain seemed to go through this. It's a point with a habitat transition, and it's just perfect. Now, hunting from the ground in there is easy in the morning, but hard at night just because the way the wind flows through there, the blowdown I can get in really only works on a morning setup.
Yeah.
So this year I did buy a saddle. So
you can hunt from the ground with a saddle, though. You always do is put it on a tree.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll see if I do that.
What saddle did you get?
Tethered.
Okay. All right.
Forget the gentleman's name, but he spent a lot of time with me. He has like the Antler Up podcast. But spent a ton of time with me and gave me a pretty good deal on that and the tethered sticks, the tethered ones. So the amount of money I spent on it, I should probably use it. But but I just kept thinking, I just kept thinking, like, how can I hunt this in the evening? And I just couldn't find a way to make it work. So anyway, this buck's coming through him, a few other bucks, mostly younger bucks. There's another buck with him. I showed you that video. It looks just like him. Yeah. And probably a year younger. But my son's like, just go hunt him, Dad. Just go hunt it. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to hunt it. And so Yep, there he is. Had a little drop tine there. But, so I didn't do it. I end up taking this week off. And about sometime in September, we find out that he has a hockey tournament in Boston. So now my week off has gone to 3 days.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm going to go up Saturday morning. I skipped his game, went up Saturday. Don't see a deer Saturday morning. Shoot a gobbler. Can't find it. Like, just off to a real bad start.
Yeah.
And I was super pumped. Like, it was facing head on. Shot it right below, like, the beard. I'm like, money. Like, I haven't shot a fall gobbler. I'd never shot one from the ground. But I haven't shot a fall gobbler in probably 10 years. Yeah. 12 years, something like that.
What kind of broadheads were you using? Was it expandable?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was either a Sever or a Rage.
Okay. Yep.
I have some old Rage Extremes, and I love them, but they're like one-time use.
Yeah, one and done.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I kind of go back and forth. Like, I love Sever. I'll shoot those moving forward just because they don't bend.
Yeah.
But trailed up the mountain, lose blood, never find it. Yeah. So whatever, drive home at lunch. He's coming back from hockey. I pick him up to hunt. He has a stand that is just money. Like, every time he goes there, he kills something. And this was the only, he was going to be able to hunt this half day. That's it. So we go up. It's a 2-man ladder stand. We get in the stand. It was so hot that day. I'm in a T-shirt, I think. Yeah. And I have a grunt call in this hand. I have my phone in this hand. I'm playing, killing it in Candy Crush Saga. And nothing's going on. So I'm just bored. And I go, brat, brat. And there's a lot of foliage on the trees. There must have been a doe group like 30 yards away, and we just couldn't see them. Yeah. They fly in, and they're standing at 20 yards. So I got Candy Crush Saga here, the grunt call here, and he's got a crossbow, and I'm like, deer, right here, right here. Yeah. And he's like, so he gets it, and I see he doesn't have his safety off, and I flip his safety off, and I'm like, take your time. He shoots it, shoots the doe. She goes off. So we still have like a few hours left. Yeah. And so we go get that taken care of. We come back, come into the stand, and we're sitting there. And he's like, I want you to shoot a deer. Yeah. Well, I don't have my bow. We just have the crossbow. I'm like, we'll see. I'm like, see what comes, if anything else comes down. Right. Well, then 4 doe come down, but they were all like super, like maybe this year's fawns. Yeah. Maybe last year's fawns at the most. And I'm like, buddy, I'm not going to shoot one of those. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And you could tell they could tell something was wrong. But at the same time, you felt like they really didn't have a clue. Yeah, they had no, They're just kind of looking around and like on alert. But they have no idea what they're on alert for. Right. So they end up walking back up the mountain. And then probably a short time later, like 10 minutes later, 2 doe come across this point. And he's like, would you shoot that one? I'm like, yeah. Like, if she comes down this way, it's a big thicket on the other side of the point. And they'll either use the point or they'll cut across the point and go in the thicket. And so they start going down toward the thicket. And behind them is a buck. And I'm like, that's a buck. And I give him the crossbow back. Yeah. And so I grunt, and he looks down, and it's pretty open, so he's not seeing what he wants to see. Right. And he's standing there, and I'm just like, brat, brat. And he looks again, and then I'm like, rap, rap, rap. Well, then he starts walking down. So he gets to about 30 yards. Long story short, he shoots that one.
Yeah.
So in a half a day of hunting, he got a buck and a doe.
And that, I think I saw that one on here too.
Yeah, probably. Which is funny because, like, probably is up further. I don't know if I posted it or not.
I thought I saw a picture of it.
It would have been.
Maybe not.
It should have been. If I posted it, it would have been. Maybe it was. No. Maybe no. I don't. It might have been on that reel at the end, but either way, he ends up getting this 5 point, and my friends.
Oh yeah, it was.
There
this
it
one.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, right there. Yeah.
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 And so he got that one.
Yeah.
And that's like his smallest buck ever. So my friends were like giving me crap. They're like, pretty small for him. Because every time that kid goes to the woods, it seems like he just has this horseshoe up his butt. Like, it's his third buck. He was 14.
Yeah.
So it's his third buck. And
man,
I think he's killed 4 or 5 doe, 3 longbeards.
Yeah.
Like, he just has a dad that loves to hunt.
Yeah.
And he gets to reap the rewards for it. But, like, his first turkey was like 25 pounds. The beard changed colors 3 times. 1.5 inch spurs on the one side, 1.25 inch on the other.
Holy
and I'm like,
crap.
You know, I remember saying to him, I'm like, you have no idea what you just did.
Yeah.
I'm like, I've never killed a bird that big. I'm like, you basically won the Stanley Cup your rookie year.
Right.
I'm like, that's what you did.
Jeez.
But, and he killed another one a couple years later, maybe even a year later. It just had such beautiful coloring to it. He's like, can I get this mounted? I'm like, no, you can take a nice picture and I'll blow it up. And so we have it hanging. It's probably like the size of your tree stand here.
Yeah.
And we have it by another one where I shot a longbeard up in the mountains and I'm walking down through this creek and just the scenery is awesome. And my brother was behind me taking a picture.
Yeah.
And it's just awesome. It's like one of my favorite pictures. So I got the long beard over my shoulder, and it's just what you think of. Like if you were to think of the second week of turkey season where everything's green, and it's just like there was just, it's wet. Like it had rained the night before.
Yeah.
The sun's just coming up. We killed that bird right off the roost, and but. So we have those 2 pictures hanging in his room, like framed out, and
That's cool.
yeah. But yeah, you know, went fishing down the Outer Banks, catches a huge ass wahoo. Like go to Lake Ontario, and we're fishing up there. Catches like I forget what it was. It was like a 30-some inch lake trout. Like He just
has that niche. Like it just happens.
His second
right now.
buck was a 10 point. Like,
man.
So, so then have off Sunday, head back up Monday. It's perfect for what I think of big buck weather, foggy, misty morning. I don't see a single deer, not even a doe.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, talking all this smack to myself, like in my head, like, what's wrong with you? Why can't you get on them? Like, this is perfect big buck weather. It's October 30th. Like, so I think I actually messaged my buddy John Knowles, and I was like, dude, I don't know. I'm like, they're just not moving. Like, I don't know what's going on. And Tyler Smith also, I messaged him, and he's like, well, I'm headed out. And then Knowles was headed out, so I'm like, I'll just stay.
Yep.
You know, whatever happens. So I go pull cards off my regular cameras, and I'm checking these logging roads, seeing, you know, first of all, that buck disappeared for a while. I just figured I missed my timeline.
Yeah, and these logging roads, are they on the private property you have? Okay, all right.
Yeah, so now I'm more in the center of our property. Like where he was more toward the public.
Okay.
But So now I'm literally where Brendan killed his buck.
Okay.
I can see the cabin.
Yeah.
And, but when I pull the card, I'm hunting a buck that looks just like him. Mm-hmm. And there was this one setup, and I'm texting John, and I'm like, and I take a picture of the setup. I'm like, here's the problem. These deer come in here from every angle. It's a point. Mm-hmm. They're trying to get across the creek because there's feed across the creek.
Right.
And they'll either funnel down through this point or go in the thicket I talked about. Mm-hmm. But either way, they're typically coming from my right or straight down the point. Mm-hmm. So I take this one picture and I send it to Knowles, and I'm like, hey, what do you think about this setup? I'm like, here's the problem. If I hunt this setup, this is the only trail I can see.
Right.
Now, the trail's about 10 foot above my head. Yeah. Because it's down in this ravine between the cattle field and the point. Yeah. I'm like, or I can try and find a setup because I really don't want to hunt out of... I don't like where Brendan's stand's located. Right. But it's a two-man ladder, and I said on the first episode, I'm lazy. I'm not trying to move it. Like,
yeah. Especially a two-man ladder.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's usually just me.
Right.
So,
yeah.
So he's like, I don't know. If it's me, I'm hunting the spot where I can see more. Mm-hmm. So I find this blowdown to get into, and it's literally right on the point. Like it's 8-10 yards from the deer trail that goes straight down the point. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, all right, I'm literally laying on the ground looking up the point because I'm expecting the deer either to come straight at me, and I figured that would give me enough time to adjust because it's kind of thick in there. Mm-hmm. But I can still see up the point very well. Or they're going to cross over in front of me about 30 yards. Right. And so I'm like, all right, I'll get in here. And I'm laying down. And next thing I see is 3 doe coming from my left. So that didn't fit the script. Yeah, yeah. And I'm like, if there's a buck behind them, like there's no way I can like get up and make this shot. Right. So I reposition and I just sit straight up and down. Now I have good back cover, but I didn't like my front cover for the way I was sitting. And I was like, oh, well, like I'm just going to have to, they come straight down that point. Like I'm just going to have to be ready, minimal movement, watch their head, whatever. Yep. Literally 10 seconds later, I hear something behind me. I've never seen a deer come that way after like 8 in the morning, 9 in the morning. Yeah. So I'm like, it's probably a squirrel. And I turn around and the buck,
a damn squirrel.
Yeah. The buck is staring at me. And so anytime a buck does that, I squint my eyes right away and I just kind of dipped my head down. Mm-hmm. And honestly, like I'm just waiting for him to snort at me. Yeah, yeah. But I didn't really get a good look at the buck, so I didn't know what buck it was. Right. So in my head, I'm like, his right side looked heavy. Yeah. Like, it was literally like a split second. And so I just put my head down, and I'm listening. Like I said, waiting for it to snort. Mm-hmm. But it starts walking, and I can tell it's walking towards me. Right. And I'm like, okay. So it just keeps walking, and I'm listening, and it's getting louder and louder. And when I felt it was kind of beside me, then I just like look over, and he's walking away. And again, I only had till Wednesday to hunt. This is Monday evening. Yep. I'm like, shoot this deer. Yeah. Get drawn, shoot, hear pop. But for whatever reason, I never really saw where the arrow hit. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, I shot that turkey Saturday morning. I didn't find that. Mm-hmm. But what I left out was it took a little while to find Brendan's deer. So now I'm losing like my my trust in myself, right? Because now I've had 2 things that went wrong, and I'm like, I'm going to go call my buddy.
Yep.
So I had a headlamp on. I know the deer like to use that area. I like to use a green headlamp.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I have a green and a red one I use.
Yeah.
Yep.
The green one I love to death. Like, I can literally walk up on deer.
Yeah.
And they do not spook. The red one, they do.
Mm-hmm.
But this thing also had like a 500 lumen white lamp. So I'm like, I'm just going to turn the 500 lumen on.
Yeah.
And it was heavy cloud cover. So it was darker quicker than like your after 30 minutes.
Yep.
So it was still legal shooting light. And I'm standing there and I text, we have a group chat with another group of friends of mine, Bob, Joe, and Matt. So I text them all. I'm like, can anybody come help trail a deer? I don't know how good the shot is. I haven't even walked over. Bob is a retired police officer, but he works like I think like an 11 to 7 shift. He's like, sorry, bud, I'm at work.
Yeah.
He's like, I would, but he has another job now, and he's like, I can't leave.
Yeah.
Joe's daughter's like a up and coming music singer. She's really good. So shout out to Addie Grace. But
I've heard that name before.
Yeah, she's really good. But he's like, dude, you're killing me. I'm at the studio with Addie. Well, Matt was at like some dinner with his family. He's like, I'm coming. I'll be there. And I'm like, all right. I said, I'm not going to look for anything. Like, you know, when you get here, you get here.
Yep.
And so it ended up taking him like an hour and a half to get up there. But as I'm standing there texting him, the buck that looks just like him starts walking right at me. I hear brat, brat. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. And I'm standing up with this white 500 lumen headlamp on.
Yeah.
So I grab my phone and I just start videoing. I had this deer at 15 yards for over 4 minutes. And I'm like, you are so lucky I'm an ethical person.
Yeah.
Because I missed that buck last year, and I was like, I wanted him, but this was the buck I was after anyway, but I didn't know it was that buck when I shot it.
Yeah.
And he just walks down the trail. He's looking right at me with my headlamp on going, brat, brat. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. So I end up walking back, and I'm just sitting in the truck. Like, I think I texted Tyler and John and Lee and Ryan, the guys that helped me at Bow Creek. And I'm like, well, I just shot one. I'm like, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
So they knew like all the stuff that happened before with the turkey and Brendan's doe and stuff. And Tyler's telling me, well, if you don't have blood, just get it tomorrow. And I'm like, I'm not coming back tomorrow. Like, well, first of all, I got to see the blood first.
Yeah.
But, so they're keeping me entertained while I'm waiting on Matt. I haven't eaten all day. And now it's like, I don't know what time it is. Probably 7:30.
Right.
And so Matt gets there, and I'm like, hey, let's do a shot of Crown Vanilla before we go out, just for good luck.
Yeah.
He's like, all right. So we do a shot. We go first 20 yards, nothing.
Yeah.
And then it's just blood everywhere, and he's just on like a rampage. Well, it ends up dying in this big thicket.
Yeah.
He's like, I got it. And while I walk up to it, and like, it was the deer I was after, but had no idea.
Yeah.
It had a good 4-point side on the right side, and then its left side was a main beam with like a crab claw at the end, and then it had like a little drop time, probably like a 1 inch and a half drop time.
Wow.
On the side.
That's thick.
Yeah. So it was definitely the coolest buck I've ever shot. As far as uniqueness. And then we try and drag this thing out, and we don't have to go far.
Right.
But, like, I feel bad because he's up helping me. He has to work tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
So we didn't get a lot of good pictures, which I'm bummed about now. But, like, at the time, I was just trying to be courteous. Like, we got to get out of here.
Uh-huh.
So take your time, take your pictures, because I have the memory, but I wish I had better pictures.
Yeah.
So we end up dragging this out. And the reason I said the part about doing a shot and, like, being on an empty stomach, now it's like, as we're dragging, like, I get this burn start coming up through here. And so we end up just walking back to the truck and getting ratchet straps because the live weight of the deer was 232 pounds. It dressed out at 183. So it was the second biggest bodied buck I ever shot. But
that's, wow, yeah. How old do you think he was?
I don't know. I would say he looked about a year older than the other one.
Okay.
And the other one was 4. So I'm guessing he's at least 5, I think.
Okay. All right.
He had a
he
big,
looks big,
flat head. I had so many pictures and videos of him.
Mm-hmm.
But you can kind of tell there he has like a white bar between his eyes.
Yeah, right here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I always thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
But just when he was on video, there's one video sometime in October where he's in there feeding on acorns with 2 smaller, year-and-a-half-old bucks. And he just looks like a monster next to them.
Yeah, he definitely has a big body, and also it could be like that time frame too with the big body.
He put on so much weight from, like, if you'd see like the pics and videos I have of him in the beginning of October, like, I don't know how much weight they put on in that time, but he put on a ton of weight.
Yeah. So did you get that shoulder? Was that a skull mount or what?
Oh no, a shoulder mount. Like, I'm the kind of person, like, I don't need to kill something. Like, if I'm going in after something, like, 3.5-year-old or better for me in PA.
Yep.
Maryland, I'll go down there. I'll shoot a velvet spike for all I care. But, like,
same.
It's just the pride of, like, killing a big deer in Pennsylvania and whatever. I've done it on public and private. Like, the funny thing is, like, the majority of these deer are on public most of the day. They use our property as like a transition zone. Okay. So, but where they're going is really thick. And, but yeah, I'd say the biggest buck on camera I ever had up there was like a 145-ish. Yeah. They kill there's big deer up there. The biggest one I've ever seen was probably in person, like the 137 I killed. Yeah. But that deer, I had sheds from him when he was 2.5, so he was like 6.5 when I killed him. But
yeah. I mean, there's the general area you're hunting. I've also been kind of diving into, and I know there's some big deer up in that area. Like there's some really nice deer up around that area. I mean, it's the public's hard access. It's, the kind of area that you want to go to, especially if you're hunting primarily public. For me personally, that's what I do. So like that's the kind of area I want to find, like mountainous terrain, all that kind of good stuff, like diverse habitat here and there. Like it's
I have
ideal.
a friend that hunts probably a mile down the road. Yeah. And the deer he gets are significantly bigger than the deer I get.
Oh,
but
really?
they have everything down there.
Yeah.
Ours is just a cattle farm. Like, we don't have feed or, like, you get the acorns, and you never know what can show up in the rut. Like, I remember having cameras on public down there, and I got a buck I had in summer on public down there. Was, I'd say, 2 miles away. I know through all the deer studies and stuff, that's not a far distance, but like you don't know what's going to show up during the rut.
Yeah. I think that's what entices people so much. Like when they take off for work, they take that off. Like they take off for scrape week, because it's like, you never know what's going to come around that scrape or what's going to come through there, that bedding area, all that kind of stuff. I think that's what entices people to take off for a week, 2 weeks.
I agree. And I think for me, I bought into too much hype. Like you hear for the Elkwood, September 13th. You hear for the Whitetail Woods, November 10th a lot.
Yep, or 7th to 10th. Yeah. Yep.
So that's what I was doing. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, you're an idiot. Like, you own a trail cam company. You have all these trail cam photos. Mm-hmm. And that's what led me to start cataloging my bucks in October, November. Because I don't want to hunt them when they're chasing. I want to hunt them when they're seeking.
Yep.
So for me, the one side of the property is pretty much October 27th to the 31st.
Okay.
They seem to seek a lot over there during daylight hours. Mm-hmm. I feel like they're just taking inventory, kind of what does are where.
Scent checking, all that kind of stuff. Yep. While
the other side of the property is pretty much November 1st to the 4th.
Okay.
So I don't know why. It's just historical data. It's not. All I can do is look at the pictures and go, okay, I need to be in this general area November 1st to the 4th.
Yep.
My buddy Tyler's hunting this beautiful buck and can't seem to get on it. Well, he just went up and pulled cards. And for him, that buck frequented daylight November 7th to the 11th. And he was like, I have a ton of pictures of him these days. He's like, I know where I'll be next year these days.
Yeah.
And, you got all these theories about the moon and stuff like that. Yeah. And I just don't. I believed it when it first came out because I was a big Charlie Alsheimer fan. Mm-hmm. And he did a lot of studies in the Appalachian Mountains of New York State. And a lot of what he said translated into hunting the mountains of PA for me. At that time, I was hunting State Game Lands 211. Mm-hmm. And actually, all the theft is what led me to get a lease, because I was like, if I'm going to lose $1,000 worth of products, I might as well just go get a lease. Mm-hmm. And so with everything else he was saying falling into line with the area I was hunting, I was like, well, what he's saying about the moon is probably true too. Yeah. But when I go back and look at historical data of trail cams, it's pretty consistent.
Yeah.
Not pretty, it is consistent. And so I do think it affects their movement. I don't think it affects when they come into rut.
Does it affect the time they're moving? Like the moon affects the time they're moving? Like what does it?
To me it does.
Okay. Yeah. To you, in your area it does.
Period.
Period. Okay.
Remember, we talked about how I did that 3-year thing. There was consistent movement at certain times with certain moon phases. Yeah. And now, I don't live by that. Like with the way my schedule is, I live more by barometric pressure over everything for me.
What's the ideal pressure that you would say, like, you don't know when to take off, but you looking at that pressure like a week in advance or whatever, whether underground, like if you're looking at that, you look at the map, what's the ideal pressure you're looking for?
For me, anything over 30.3.
Okay. All right.
So last year I told you about how I got on my target buck the first day. So this is 2 years in a row now. Yeah. And it's like, I wasn't scheduled to take off that Friday. But that Friday, that barometric pressure was supposed to be 30.47.
Okay.
And I was like, we're going to see some things today. Like, I put a day in off work, like the day before. I was like, I'm going to start my vacation a day early. Right. And I think that year, the weather was so warm, and I kept moving my vacation. Yeah. And because obviously, to me, weather trumps everything, right? Like, you have your average temperature. But when I saw it was 30.47 and the temperature was average, like right near the average, I'm like, we're going to see some deer movement. Yeah. And sure did. Like, I think I saw 2 shooters that day. Okay. Which for me, like I might go into a season with 3 bucks in mind. You know, you never know what can show up during the rut.
Right.
But like deer that are there more than one day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like I showed you that big buck. Like
Yep.
I only had 2 pictures of that deer.
Yeah.
So obviously we're on the edge of his home range.
Yep.
Right. Yep. And so now I got to venture more into his home range and try and find it.
Yep.
And it's like, so I'll do that, you know, come summer and try to find him, which probably won't find him there during the summer just because of all the ag around us. But eventually he'll show up, you know. So hopefully it's just using those habitat transitions and things like that to try and find them. But yeah, so anything over 30.3 intrigues me, especially if it's 30.3 and you know it's going to be rising.
Is there anything that's too high? Like the pressure's too high?
Yeah, I mean, I've heard that. 30.47 is the highest that I remember seeing it.
Okay.
I have heard theories about that. I don't know that. I'm not saying it hasn't happened.
Right.
It's just like when it's happened, maybe I wasn't intrigued about hunting enough that time, like say mid-October or something, and I'm like, you know, I can't go this week anyway, so maybe I'm not paying attention to it as much.
Okay.
But if it's on like the edge of my vacation day, like I'll just start it a day early. Yeah. You know, but
okay.
Yeah, so for me it's 30.3, especially if it, you know, like that's where you're starting the day at and it's going to be rising. Like, so that's what all I do. Habitat transitions, barometric pressure, temperature obviously plays a role into it. Yep. But I mean,
the weather, like does precipitation, does that matter to you as well?
See, I love, like, to me, that morning that I didn't see any deer just blew my mind.
Yeah,
because
like a dewiness. Yeah. Yep.
There's something about a light mist or fog or even when Brendan killed his 10-point, it was raining that day. But when I looked at the weather, it was supposed to stop. And if I remember correctly, like, my job's working with numbers. So I'm like, I believe it was 8:03 when the rain stopped, and we saw that buck at literally less than 5 minutes later.
Yeah.
And, you know, so, yeah, if you know, like, when the rain's going to stop and things like that, like, to me, that plays a big role in it, too.
Yeah, I always like getting out when it's raining. And, like, especially if I get out there, like, an hour and a half or 2 hours before it stops raining, and I can get set up and all that kind of stuff, and then I know I have a good chance of seeing something.
Exactly. Like, I feel like I've heard theories on it. Like, obviously, it keeps our scent down, right? Like, it's keeping your scent down.
Yep.
But deer are a prey animal.
Yep.
So, like, one of the theories I've heard is they like it because it keeps their scent down as well.
They can move pretty far and not worry about coyotes or something getting on them.
Yep.
I can see that.
Yeah.
100%.
Yep.
Yeah.
So pretty much like the way my everyday life is, like I have to take that week, and I don't know. This year I'd like to go to Ohio. I have a buddy that hunts out there, and we talked about it briefly.
Yeah.
So I think if I get that same movement early October, maybe I'll try and go into that area, kill a buck, and then I can use my week to go to Ohio. But,
that'd be fun.
Yeah. But I had the same movement the year before. Not. I don't remember if it was consistent in that area. Yeah. But there's another point that they like to use, probably like a quarter mile away. Okay. And this big buck liked that area for whatever reason. But I didn't have a cell cam in there. I had a standard cam, and same thing. I wasn't getting to the woods because of his hockey schedule, and it was like I was cataloging those pictures last night. I told you I found that folder, and I'm just like, man, because that hunt didn't go well. Like, you know, you get on him, and it's like you do everything right, and then I just had a dumb setup. But, But yeah, he moved super early.
Yep.
And was all throughout probably 5th of October till the end of October. I forget what day it was I got on him, but similar time frame, like late October, maybe 27th, 28th time frame. But he was consistently moving all of October during daylight hours.
Yeah.
So you find spots like that, like, you know, I do believe they don't move as much.
Yep.
And obviously we had a part of the success of finding that buck was a hot oak tree.
Yep. Yeah.
You know, so that can also liven up your October lull.
That can change the whole dynamic of a woods if it's this hot tree there.
Right. And what's interesting is I don't listen to many podcasts, but I do listen to a lot of deer study like type podcasts.
MSU Deer Lab is one. Yep.
Right. So they had a study where they actually put out acorns.
Yeah.
And the guy said, I forget, it was if you have a hot oak tree, 3 months later, they'll come back to that.
Okay.
So, you know, it intrigued me because I had a hot oak tree. So I'm like, that means January deer should be piling in here.
They should, yeah.
And they did. And I was like, oh,
yeah,
that checks out.
It does.
And so it's good to know. Like, I mean, if you find something like that in October and you're not successful, like if you're a late season hunter.
Yep.
I killed my biggest buck late season, so it has like a special place, you know, knowing that if you're still out there.
Yeah.
I was after a big buck 2 years ago, late season, but I just couldn't get on him.
Yeah.
I mean, he wouldn't have scored much, but he was an old tank of a deer just like him.
Yeah.
And I really wanted that for like late season. I just think there's something about hunting late season that, I don't know, in today's society, it's hard to say, but it just makes you feel like a man. You know,
it does.
You're out there in the snow and the cold, and it's like, I had 2 bucks that he was hanging with came in. They were year-old deer, you know, 1.5-year-old deer, and just sitting there on the ground late season, and they're at like 20 yards, and I'm just watching them, and it's like, where's your buddy?
Yeah.
But he never showed up, so I don't know what ever happened, but yeah, that one, I don't want to say hurts, but it was like, when I saw those 2 deer come over the top of the mountain, I was like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
And then he no-showed.
There's something about late season that it's just, it draws you in, because I'm right there with you, like with flintlock and stuff.
Yeah.
There's times that I'd rather take the bow out for sure.
Yeah, I take the bow. I can't shoot a flintlock for crap.
Well, I can't. I'm not good at it. Put it that way. I'm not good at it at all. But I feel like it's just one of those things that I need to get one down with it. To, like you said, it makes you feel like a man. Yeah. Like you're going out there.
It's
everyone
so
else,
primitive. It's so quiet. Like you feel like you're the,
everyone else at home.
Yeah.
Like wishing they could be out hunting, and you're actually out there hunting. And it's like,
they're watching NFL playoffs.
This gun might not even go off. Right. But it's like the fact that I'm still out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had this one old doe. I named her Lucky. Like she was darker than like a Hershey Special Dark like chocolate bar. Like, and you could see her. And I don't know how old she was. I feel like she could have been 60 or 70. Yeah. But and 3 times I had her in range with my flintlock, and all 3 times it was just like.
Did it go off?
Nope.
Oh, dude, I hate that.
I was like, I'm done with this.
Absolutely.
Switch to just keep my bow. I can shoot my bow.
Yep. I'll buy a crossbow for the late season. Right. There we go.
Is that accepted?
I'll accept it.
Start a poll.
I'll accept it. Matt, it has been awesome having you in the studio, hearing about your season, and then part 1, hearing all about Bow Creek, diving into some trail camp stuff. Yeah. Because you don't hear that much on podcasts, like the technical side of trail camps. Yep. So I would like to dive into that, and then having our little, controversial topic about different companies in the industry, which we all know who you're talking about, so it's okay.
I'm not throwing any names out there.
It's all right. I almost threw some names out there, but I just decided not to.
Yeah.
So where can people follow you at? And if they want to buy some cameras, go check you out.
Yeah, so it's just bowcreekoutdoors.com. Social media is Bow Creek Outdoors on Facebook, 3 separate words. Instagram is just one long Bow Creek Outdoors. Yeah, that's where you can find us. Should be running a turkey call sale soon. So if you're looking to try some of our turkey calls, like very easily, if you can work a diaphragm call, like very little air is needed to make noise with these. That's what I love the most about them. And then, we'll be running. We're going to be more promotional this year, running specials and stuff. Some buy one, get one 50% off type things. Also run our anniversary sale every year in usually July, August time frame. But yeah, so that's where you can check us out. Do have a YouTube page. Haven't updated it in a long time. But if you're into turkey hunting, my son has a turkey hunt on there. That was super fun. Probably need to do better with all my social media, to be honest. But have a couple hunts on there. Oh, wow. That one almost has 90,000 views, so go get that up there. Go ahead and hit the thumbs down button because I don't kill the buck. But
Oh, you don't kill him?
No. Let him walk.
I think I watched it, but I didn't.
Yeah. It really made people mad that it's like I took food off their table. But it's a good buck. It's just young.
Yeah, go check it out. Buck at 13 yards, Pennsylvania archery.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah.
Fun hunt.
Matt, thanks again for coming on the podcast. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's cool having you in here.
Yeah, it was a good time.
Yeah, absolutely. Remember, everyone, to keep hunting, keep fishing, keep your tradition, and always enjoy the freaking process. Thanks. There we go.